The morning started like any other day on Earth until the sky began to change. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his coffee aboard the Luna Defense Station when the first alerts came through the communication system. The radar screens showed massive objects approaching from deep space. Objects so large they made Earth's biggest ships look like toys. Jake put down his coffee and moved to the main display. The objects were still far away but growing larger by the minute. He had been a space defense officer for 15 years and had never seen anything like this. The shapes were wrong, too smooth and too big to be human ships. His hands moved across the control panel as he tried to get better readings. Down on Earth, people in major cities stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. In New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other cities, huge shadows began to form overhead. The alien ships were arriving, and they were bigger than anyone had imagined. Each ship was several miles long and wide enough to cover entire city blocks. Dr. Carl Bennett was in his lab when the emergency broadcast began. He was a scientist who studied languages and communication, and he had always wondered what would happen if aliens ever came to Earth. Now he was about to find out. The broadcast was coming from the alien ships, and it was being sent on every radio and television channel on Earth. Commander Lisa Hayes was in the middle of a meeting at Earth Defense Command when all the screens in the room switched to the same signal. She was one of the top military leaders on Earth, and she knew that whatever was happening was bigger than anything they had prepared for. The other officers in the room fell silent as the alien message began to play. The voice that came through the speakers was not human, but it spoke perfect English. It also spoke perfect Chinese, perfect Spanish, and every other language on Earth at the same time. The aliens had somehow learned every human language and were broadcasting in all of them at once. The message was simple and direct. The voice explained that they were the Zephyrian Empire, and they ruled over many worlds across the galaxy. They had come to Earth to add it to their empire. Humans had 72 hours to surrender completely, or their cities would be destroyed. There would be no negotiation and no second chances. Jake Morrison listened to the message from his station above the moon. He could see Earth below him and the massive alien ships hanging in space around it. The ships had not attacked yet, but their weapons were clearly visible. Energy cannons the size of skyscrapers pointed down at Earth's major cities. The message was clear even without words. In Washington, President Helen Carter was rushed to the Emergency Command Center deep underground. She had been president for 3 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Her advisors were already gathering information about the alien ships and trying to figure out what Earth's options were. The options were not good. Earth's most powerful weapons had been tested against the alien ships, and they had no effect at all. The alien shields absorbed every missile, every energy blast, and every projectile that humans could fire. It was like throwing rocks at a mountain. Dr. Carl Bennett worked through the night studying the alien message. He played it over and over again, looking for clues about who these aliens were and what they really wanted. Most of the message was straightforward, but there were small details that caught his attention. The way they spoke about other worlds suggested they had done this many times before. Commander Lisa Hayes gathered reports from defense stations around the world. Every major military installation was reporting the same thing. The alien ships were positioned over every important city and military base on Earth. They had studied human civilization and knew exactly where to place their ships for maximum effect. The aliens had also sent smaller ships to scan Earth's defenses. These scout ships moved faster than anything humans had ever built, and they seemed to be mapping every defensive position on the planet. It was clear that the aliens had been watching Earth for a long time and knew everything about human military capabilities. As the first day passed, panic began to spread in the cities below the alien ships. People tried to leave, but the roads were blocked with traffic. Others went to underground shelters, but there were not enough shelters for everyone. The aliens had not attacked yet, but their presence was enough to terrify millions of people. President Carter spent hours in meetings with world leaders trying to find a solution. The leaders of China, Russia, Europe, and other major powers all reported the same thing. Their weapons were useless against the alien ships. Some suggested immediate surrender to save lives. Others wanted to fight regardless of the cost. Dr. Bennett made an important discovery during his analysis of the alien message. He found patterns in their language that suggested something interesting about their past conquests. The aliens seemed surprised when any species took more than a few hours to surrender. Their language included phrases that suggested they expected quick submission from all intelligent species. Jake Morrison watched Earth from his station and felt helpless. His job was to defend Earth, but his weapons could not even scratch the alien ships. He had trained for space battles, but never for something like this. The alien ships were so advanced that human technology seemed primitive in comparison. On the second day, the aliens sent another message. This one was shorter and more direct. They reminded humans that they had 48 hours remaining to surrender. They also showed what would happen to any city that refused to submit. A small demonstration blast destroyed an empty island in the Pacific Ocean, leaving nothing but a crater where land used to be. The demonstration had its intended effect. Several smaller countries immediately announced their surrender. Their leaders appeared on television to tell their people that resistance was impossible and surrender was the only way to save lives. But the major powers had not yet made their decision. President Carter called a final meeting with her top advisors and military leaders. The room was deep underground and protected by the strongest defenses Earth could build, but everyone knew those defenses meant nothing against alien weapons. The decision they made in that room would determine the future of humanity. Some advisors argued for immediate surrender. They pointed out that the aliens had superior technology and could destroy Earth completely if they chose to. Billions of lives hung in the balance, and surrender might be the only way to save them. Others argued that surrender meant the end of human freedom forever. Commander Hayes presented the military analysis. Earth's forces could not win a direct battle against the alien ships. However, she noted that the aliens seemed to expect quick surrender and might not be prepared for a long fight. If humans could find ways to resist that the aliens did not expect, there might be hope. Dr. Bennett shared his findings about the alien language patterns. The Zephyrians had conquered 47 other species, and all of them had surrendered within hours of first contact. The aliens had never faced prolonged resistance, and their tactics seemed designed for quick victories rather than extended wars. As the final hours approached, President Carter made her decision. She would not surrender on behalf of humanity. Instead, she would send a message that would change everything. The message was simple, but it carried the weight of human history and the promise of human determination. When the 72-hour deadline arrived, President Carter stood before the cameras and spoke directly to the alien ships hanging over Earth. Her words were broadcast around the world and up to the Zephyrian fleet. She looked directly into the camera and said the words that would define humanity's future. "We are human beings," she said with quiet determination. "We bow to no one." The alien response came within minutes of President Carter's defiant message. The first strike hit military bases around the world with devastating precision. Energy beams from the massive ships turned fortified bunkers into molten craters and reduced aircraft carriers to burning wreckage floating in the ocean. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks was stationed at the orbital defense platform near Mars when the attack began. From his position, he could see the alien weapons firing down at Earth like deadly lightning strikes. Each beam lasted only seconds, but left destruction that would take decades to rebuild. His orders were to defend Earth, but his weapons could not even reach the alien ships through their protective shields. On Earth, Marine Colonel Jack Turner watched his base disappear in a flash of alien energy. He had been in the command bunker when the strike hit, and the reinforced walls had saved his life. Around him lay the twisted remains of what had been one of Earth's most advanced military installations. Turner pulled himself from the wreckage and began looking for survivors. The aliens had made one critical mistake in their attack plan. They had studied human military structures and targeted obvious bases and weapons facilities. But they had not understood how human military thinking really worked. Humans had learned from centuries of warfare to spread their defenses and hide backup systems in unexpected places. Dr. Susan Martinez was working in a hidden research facility, built inside an old mountain when the attacks began. Her job was to study alien technology, and she had been analyzing the energy signatures from the alien ships for 3 days. The main laboratories had been destroyed, but her small team was still alive and still working. The alien ground forces landed 12 hours after the orbital bombardment ended. Their soldiers were tall creatures wearing advanced armor that made them look like walking machines. They moved through the ruined cities expecting to find surrendering humans ready to submit to alien rule. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. Colonel Turner had spent those 12 hours organizing the survivors from his base. Most of his heavy weapons were gone, but the soldiers were still alive and still ready to fight. Turner had fought in wars before, and he knew that sometimes the best weapons were not the biggest ones. He led his troops into the ruins of the nearby city and began planning their first strike against the alien soldiers. The aliens advanced through the city in perfect formation, their energy weapons ready to destroy any resistance they encountered. They had conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics, and they expected Earth to be no different. But as they moved deeper into the city, Turner's soldiers struck from hidden positions in damaged buildings and underground tunnels. The attack came from all directions at once. Human soldiers fired rocket launchers from rooftops, set off explosive charges in the streets, and used sniper rifles to target weak points in alien armor. The aliens had superior technology, but they had never faced guerrilla warfare from a species that refused to give up. Lieutenant Commander Brooks made an important discovery during the battle. The alien ships had some kind of navigation system that relied on magnetic fields, and Earth's natural magnetic field was interfering with their smaller craft. He watched alien fighters crash into buildings as their pilots struggled to control ships that were designed for different planetary conditions. Brooks shared his discovery with Dr. Martinez, who was still working in her hidden laboratory. She immediately understood what this meant and began working on a way to use Earth's magnetic field as a weapon. If they could create artificial magnetic disturbances, they might be able to disable alien aircraft and even damage their larger ships. The ground battle in the cities continued for days. The aliens had expected quick surrender, but instead found themselves fighting street by street against human soldiers who appeared from nowhere, struck fast, and disappeared back into the ruins. Every building could hide enemies, and every tunnel could contain explosives. Colonel Turner discovered that alien armor had weak points at the joints where different pieces connected. His soldiers began targeting these areas with precisely aimed shots. It took many hits to bring down one alien soldier, but humans had something the aliens did not expect. They had the patience to keep trying and the determination to never give up. Ambassador Claire Watson was working from a secret diplomatic facility when she made contact with something unexpected. While monitoring alien communications, she detected signals from other star systems. The signals were not from the Zephyrian Empire, but from other species that had been conquered by the aliens. Years earlier, Watson realized that the alien empire was much larger than Earth had known, but it was also spread very thin across many worlds. The aliens had to maintain control over dozens of species across thousands of light years. This meant their forces were divided, and they could not bring their full strength against any single world. The other conquered species were watching the battle for Earth with great interest. None of them had ever seen anyone resist the Zephyrians for more than a few hours. The fact that humans were still fighting after several days was sending shockwaves through the alien empire and giving hope to species that had given up hope long ago. Engineer Danny Collins was part of a salvage team that recovered a damaged alien power core from a crashed fighter. The core was still partially functional, and Collins worked with Dr. Amy Roberts to figure out how it worked. What they discovered changed everything humans thought they knew about alien technology. The alien power systems were incredibly advanced, but they were also incredibly complex. The systems had been designed by a species that thought in completely different ways than humans, and this complexity made them powerful but also fragile. When one part failed, the entire system could shut down. Dr. Roberts realized that human technology might actually have some advantages over alien systems. Human machines were simpler and more robust because humans had learned to build things that could be repaired and maintained under difficult conditions. Alien technology was more powerful, but it required perfect conditions to function properly. Collins and Roberts began working on ways to combine human engineering with alien power sources. They could not build weapons as powerful as the aliens used, but they could build weapons that worked reliably even when damaged. In a long war, reliability might be more important than raw power. The battle for Earth continued as more alien forces arrived from their ships in orbit. The aliens brought heavier weapons and more soldiers, but they also brought more complex equipment that could be disrupted by the magnetic interference that humans were learning to create. Dr. Martinez successfully built the first magnetic pulse generator using parts salvaged from destroyed human equipment. When she activated it near an alien landing zone, 3 alien aircraft crashed immediately and their ground forces found their equipment malfunctioning. The aliens had never encountered this kind of technological warfare. Colonel Turner's forces grew as more survivors joined the resistance. Civilians who had lost their homes brought knowledge of the city's underground systems. Engineers who had survived the bombings brought skills needed to build new weapons. Scientists who had escaped from destroyed laboratories brought knowledge of alien weaknesses. The aliens controlled the major cities and the main transportation routes, but humans controlled the spaces in between. Forests, mountains, underground tunnels, and ruined buildings all became hiding places for human resistance fighters. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see and could not predict. After 2 weeks of constant fighting, the alien commanders faced a problem they had never encountered before. Every other species had surrendered quickly and accepted alien rule without question. But humans kept fighting even when their chances of victory seemed impossible. The alien empire had never developed tactics for dealing with prolonged resistance. The Zephyrian fleet began calling for reinforcements from other star systems. They realized that conquering Earth would take much longer than expected and require much more resources than any previous conquest. For the first time in their history, the alien empire was being forced to commit serious military resources to subdue a single world, but something else was happening that the aliens did not yet understand. News of human resistance was spreading to other conquered worlds through hidden communication networks. Species that had accepted alien rule decades earlier were beginning to remember what freedom felt like. The human refusal to surrender was becoming an inspiration that threatened the foundation of the entire alien empire. 6 months had passed since the aliens first arrived, and Earth looked completely different from space. Most of the major cities were either destroyed or heavily damaged, but something unexpected was happening beneath the surface. Humans had not given up and instead had learned to live and fight in ways the aliens never imagined possible. Chief Engineer Steve Parker worked deep underground in what used to be a subway tunnel beneath New York City. The tunnel had been expanded into a massive factory where human workers built weapons using a mixture of salvaged human technology and captured alien components. The factory operated 24 hours a day, and the sound of machinery echoed through miles of underground passages. Parker had been a construction engineer before the war, but now he was responsible for producing the weapons that kept human resistance alive. His teams had figured out how to combine human manufacturing techniques with alien power sources to create hybrid weapons that could actually hurt the alien soldiers. The weapons were not as powerful as pure alien technology, but they worked, and they could be repaired when damaged. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of humanity's first hybrid spacecraft, the UES Defiance. The ship had been built in a hidden orbital facility using parts from destroyed human ships and alien technology captured during ground battles. Santos knew that her mission was probably suicide, but she also knew that someone had to take the fight beyond Earth's atmosphere. The Defiance was smaller than the alien ships, and much smaller than the massive vessels that still hung over Earth's cities, but it was fast and it was equipped with weapons that could actually penetrate alien shields. More importantly, it represented something the aliens had never seen before. A conquered species that was still building new ships and still fighting back. Dr. Peter Walsh had made a discovery that changed how humans understood their alien enemies. While studying captured alien soldiers, he found that their biology was designed for a very specific type of environment. The aliens came from worlds with different atmospheric pressure and different chemical compositions than Earth. Walsh discovered that prolonged exposure to Earth's atmosphere was slowly weakening the alien soldiers. They could function normally for short periods, but extended missions on Earth's surface left them tired and less effective. This explained why the aliens preferred quick conquests and why they were having so much trouble with the prolonged resistance. On Earth, the underground networks that connected human resistance cells had grown to span entire continents. What started as hiding places in subway tunnels and basement shelters had become a complete underground civilization. Humans moved supplies, information, and personnel through thousands of miles of tunnels without ever appearing on the surface. Where alien sensors could detect them, Admiral Kate Freeman commanded the resistance operations from a hidden base built inside a mountain in Colorado. The base had been constructed using mining equipment and was completely invisible from orbit. Freeman coordinated with resistance cells around the world, and with the growing number of allies humanity was finding among other conquered species, the alien empire was much larger than humans had first realized, but it was also much more fragile. Freeman had established contact with rebel groups on dozens of worlds that had been conquered by the Zephyrians over the past century. None of these species had ever successfully resisted alien rule, but they were all watching the human resistance with growing hope and excitement. The Cathara had been conquered by the aliens 50 years earlier and had accepted defeat after their capital city was destroyed. But now Cathara engineers were secretly sabotaging alien equipment on their homeworld. The damage was small, but it was constant, and it was forcing the aliens to divert resources and attention from their war against Earth. The Mendari were another species that had surrendered to the Zephyrians decades earlier. They had been allowed to keep their government and their culture as long as they followed alien rules and provided resources for the alien empire. But now Mendari intelligence agents were secretly sharing information about alien military tactics and weaknesses with human resistance leaders. Captain Santos took the Defiance on its first combat mission against an alien supply convoy traveling between Earth and the outer planets. The convoy consisted of 3 large transport ships protected by a squadron of alien fighters. Santos knew her ship was outnumbered, but she also knew that surprise was her greatest weapon. The attack came from the direction of the sun, where alien sensors had difficulty detecting the small human ship. The Defiance struck fast, destroyed 2 transport ships, and disappeared back into the asteroid belt before the alien escorts could respond effectively. The successful raid proved that humans could take the fight to the aliens even in space. Dr. Linda Chun worked in a hidden laboratory where she studied alien communication systems. Chun had discovered that the Zephyrian Empire used quantum entanglement networks to communicate instantly across vast distances. This technology allowed alien commanders to coordinate operations across multiple star systems without any delay, but Chun also discovered that these quantum networks could be intercepted and decoded if you knew what to look for. Her team developed equipment that could tap into alien communications without being detected. For the first time since the war began, humans could read alien military messages and learn about their plans before attacks happened. The information from alien communications revealed how much trouble the Zephyrian Empire was really facing. The human resistance had inspired rebellions on 17 different worlds, and alien forces were being stretched thinner and thinner as they tried to maintain control everywhere at once. Several alien commanders were requesting permission to use planet-killing weapons to end the rebellions. Quickly, Colonel Turner had been promoted to general and now commanded resistance forces across 3 continents. His guerrilla fighters had evolved from desperate survivors hiding in ruins to skilled soldiers who could defeat alien forces in direct combat. Turner's troops used captured alien weapons and human-built equipment to strike at alien bases and supply lines. The aliens had adapted their tactics to deal with human resistance, but every adaptation revealed new weaknesses that humans could exploit. When the aliens started wearing environmental suits to protect themselves from Earth's atmosphere, human fighters learned to target the suits' life support systems. When the aliens built fortified bases, humans tunneled underneath them and planted explosives. Engineer Parker's underground factories were now producing not just weapons but complete vehicles designed for fighting aliens. Human tanks equipped with alien energy cannons could destroy alien vehicles, and human aircraft with hybrid propulsion systems could outmaneuver alien fighters in Earth's atmosphere. The most important development was the successful reverse engineering of alien faster-than-light communication technology. Dr. Chun's team had built humanity's first quantum communicator, allowing instant contact with resistance movements on other worlds. The human rebellion was becoming a galactic rebellion. Captain Alex Turner, the general's son, volunteered to command humanity's first faster-than-light mission. Using technology captured from alien ships and improved by human engineers, his small crew would travel to a nearby star system to establish direct contact with alien rebels and coordinate joint operations against the Zephyrian Empire. The mission was extremely dangerous because alien space was heavily patrolled and any human ship would be attacked immediately if discovered. But Turner believed that the potential benefits were worth the risk. If humans could unite all the rebel species in coordinated action, they might be able to defeat an empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. The aliens responded to growing resistance by threatening to destroy Earth completely. Zephyrian commanders announced that they would use planet-killing weapons to eliminate the human threat permanently. This announcement was broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to other species about what happened to worlds that refused to accept alien rule, but the threat had an unexpected effect. Instead of frightening other species into submission, it convinced many rebel groups that they had nothing left to lose. If the aliens were willing to destroy entire worlds to maintain control, then their rule was even more brutal than anyone had realized. President Carter, still leading the human government, from hidden bunkers made a public response to the alien threat. She broadcast a message to every world in the galaxy, promising that humanity would continue fighting regardless of the consequences. She challenged other species to join the rebellion and help create a galaxy where all species could be free. The Zephyrian Empire was facing its greatest crisis in recorded history. For the first time since they began conquering other worlds, their authority was being challenged by multiple species acting together. The human refusal to surrender had become a symbol of hope for every conquered world, and that hope was turning into action. Deep underground on Earth, in hidden bases throughout the solar system, and on rebel worlds across the galaxy, the resistance was growing stronger every day. What had started as one species refusing to kneel had become a galactic war for freedom. 2 years had passed since the first alien ships appeared over Earth, and the galaxy was no longer the same. What had started as a simple conquest of one small world had become a war that threatened the very foundation of the Zephyrian Empire. Rebellions were burning on dozens of worlds, and the aliens were discovering that their empire was not as strong as they had believed. General Paul Mitchell stood in the command center of Operation Prometheus, humanity's most ambitious military strike since the war began. The operation would target 3 major Zephyrian command centers, simultaneously using coordinated attacks from human forces and rebel allies on other worlds. Mitchell had been planning this operation for 6 months, and everything depended on perfect timing. The first target was a massive command station orbiting Jupiter that controlled alien operations throughout the outer solar system. The second target was an alien fortress on Mars that served as the main supply base for their Earth invasion forces. The third target was a communication hub on Titan that connected the local alien forces with their Empire's central command. Captain Alex Turner had successfully completed his faster-than-light mission and returned with representatives from 5 different rebel species. These aliens had been fighting their own secret wars against the Zephyrian Empire for decades, waiting for the right moment to strike. The human rebellion had given them that moment. The Cathara had provided detailed intelligence about Zephyrian military structures and weaknesses. Their engineers had been secretly studying alien technology for 50 years and had discovered flaws that could be exploited. The Mindari had shared information about alien patrol routes and defensive patterns. Other species had contributed weapons, supplies, and fighters. Dr. Linda Chun had perfected the quantum communication interceptor that allowed humans to read every message sent between alien commanders. Through these intercepts, she learned that the Zephyrian Empire was in serious trouble. Rebellions were draining their resources, and their military was spread too thin to effectively control all their conquered territories. The aliens were arguing among themselves about how to handle the crisis. Some commanders wanted to use planet-killing weapons to destroy rebel worlds and terrify other species into submission. Others argued that destroying worlds would eliminate valuable resources and might provoke even more rebellions. The intercepts revealed something else important about the alien empire. The Zephyrians had not fought a real war in over 2 centuries. Their conquests had always been quick and easy because other species surrendered immediately when faced with superior technology. The aliens had no experience with prolonged military campaigns or coordinated resistance movements. Captain Maria Santos commanded a fleet of 12 hybrid ships that had been built in secret facilities throughout the solar system. Her ships were designed using the best combination of human engineering and alien technology that had been captured or salvaged. During 2 years of fighting, the fleet was small compared to alien forces, but it was fast and deadly. Santos led the attack on the Jupiter command station while General Mitchell coordinated the ground assault on Mars. The space battle was fierce but brief. Human ships used stealth technology copied from alien designs to approach the station without being detected. When they opened fire, their hybrid weapons punched through alien shields that had been thought impenetrable. The alien defenders were caught completely by surprise. They had never been attacked by ships using their own technology against them. The command station's powerful defenses were designed to stop primitive human weapons, not advanced energy cannons powered by alien reactor cores. On Mars, human ground forces emerged from hidden tunnels directly inside the alien fortress. The tunnels had been dug over many months by mining equipment that operated silently beneath the Martian surface. When the attack began, human soldiers appeared in the most secure areas of the alien base. Colonel Jack Turner led the assault team that captured the fortress's main reactor. The aliens had built their base using standard Empire designs that assumed no enemy could penetrate their outer defenses. They had never considered the possibility that an enemy might tunnel underneath their entire facility. The third part of Operation Prometheus targeted the communication hub on Titan. This attack was carried out by a joint force of humans and Kithara rebels working together. The Kithara provided ships and weapons while humans provided the tactical planning and leadership that had made their resistance so effective. The 3 coordinated strikes succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. All 3 targets were either destroyed or captured, and the alien forces in the solar system were left confused and isolated. For the first time since the war began, humans had achieved a complete tactical victory against their alien enemies, but the success of Operation Prometheus had consequences that reached far beyond the solar system. The coordinated attack had been broadcast across the galaxy through rebel communication networks. Every conquered species could see that the mighty Zephyrian Empire could be defeated by determined resistance fighters working together. Dr. Peter Walsh had continued his studies of alien biology and made another important discovery. The Zephyrians were not actually one species but 3 different species that had formed an alliance centuries earlier. Each species contributed different abilities to the Empire, but they also had different weaknesses and different goals. Walsh discovered that the 3 alien species did not always agree on strategy and tactics. The intercepts that Dr. Chun was collecting showed increasing tension between alien commanders from different species. The prolonged war was putting stress on their alliance and threatening to tear apart the cooperation that made their empire possible. The rebellion was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Within weeks of Operation Prometheus, 18 different Worlds had declared independence from the Zephyrian Empire. Rebel fleets were attacking alien bases and destroying supply convoys. The Empire was losing control of territory that it had ruled for decades. Admiral Kate Freeman coordinated the growing rebel alliance from her hidden command center, Representatives. From dozens of species were now working together to plan joint operations against alien forces. The humans had become the unofficial leaders of the rebellion because their resistance had started the Galactic Uprising. Engineer Steve Parker's underground factories were now producing weapons and equipment for rebel forces throughout the galaxy. Human manufacturing techniques combined with alien technology were creating new types of weapons that neither humans nor aliens had ever imagined. These hybrid technologies were giving rebel forces significant advantages in battle. The aliens were adapting their tactics, but they were always one step behind the rapidly evolving rebellion. Every time they developed new defenses, human engineers found ways to overcome them. Every time they changed their patrol patterns, rebel intelligence networks discovered the new routes. Captain Alex Turner made his second faster-than-light mission, this time carrying weapons and supplies to rebel forces on distant worlds. His ship was part of a growing fleet of human vessels that were establishing supply lines and communication networks throughout rebel-controlled space. The most dramatic change was happening on Earth itself. The planet that had been under siege for 2 years was slowly being liberated by its own people. Human forces had recaptured several major cities and were pushing alien troops back to heavily fortified positions near their landing sites. The underground civilization that humans had built was emerging into the daylight. Factories that had been hidden beneath ruined cities were expanding into surface facilities. The network of tunnels that had protected human survivors was becoming the foundation for rebuilding human civilization. President Carter announced the formation of the Galactic Liberation Alliance, a formal military and political organization that united all the rebel species fighting against the Zephyrian Empire. The alliance had its headquarters on Earth, and its first goal was the complete liberation of all conquered worlds, but the aliens were not defeated yet. Zephyrian reinforcements were gathering at the edge of the galaxy and preparing for a massive counterattack. The alien high command had decided to use their most powerful weapons to crush the rebellion once and for all. They were bringing planet-killing ships and weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. The aliens issued a final ultimatum to Earth and all rebel worlds. They had assembled the largest fleet in their empire's history, and they were prepared to destroy any world that continued to resist their authority. They gave the rebels 72 hours to surrender unconditionally or face complete annihilation. The ultimatum was broadcast across the galaxy, and every species had to make a choice. They could surrender and accept alien rule forever, or they could stand with humanity and fight for freedom regardless of the cost. The decision would determine whether the galaxy would remain under alien control or become free for the first time in centuries. President Carter's response was broadcast from Earth to every world in the galaxy. She stood before the cameras with representatives from dozens of rebel species beside her. Her message was simple, but it carried the weight of 2 years of human resistance and the hope of billions of beings throughout the galaxy. The final battle was coming, and everyone knew it well. The largest alien fleet in galactic history approached Earth as the 72-hour deadline expired. Thousands of Zephyrian warships filled the space around the solar system, including massive planet-killer vessels that could destroy entire worlds with a single shot. The alien high command had decided to end the rebellion by making an example that would terrify every species in the galaxy, but something unexpected happened as the alien fleet prepared to attack. President Carter broadcast a message across the galaxy that would change everything. Instead of surrender or defiance, she made an offer that caught the aliens completely off guard. Carter proposed single combat between champions to decide the fate of Earth and all rebel worlds. If humanity's champion lost, all rebel species would surrender unconditionally and accept alien rule forever. If humanity's champion won, the Zephyrian Empire would withdraw from all conquered worlds and recognize the independence of every species. The proposal was based on ancient galactic laws that even the Zephyrian Empire claimed to follow. These laws had not been invoked for thousands of years, but they were still technically valid according to the legal codes that governed interstellar relations. Carter was gambling that the aliens would be too proud to refuse such a challenge. The alien commanders debated the proposal for hours while their fleet waited in space around Earth. Some wanted to reject the challenge and simply destroy all rebel worlds immediately. Others argued that accepting the challenge would demonstrate alien superiority and give them a legal justification for their empire that other species could not question. The decision came from the highest levels of the Zephyrian Empire. They would accept the challenge, but only because they were absolutely certain of victory. The aliens chose their greatest warrior, a creature named Vorthak, who had never lost a battle in 3 centuries of combat. Vorthak was enhanced with cybernetic implants and equipped with the most advanced weapons in the alien arsenal. Humanity chose Colonel Jack Turner as their champion. Turner had led the resistance from the very beginning and had personally fought alien soldiers in dozens of battles. He was not the strongest human or the fastest, but he represented everything that made humanity dangerous to the alien empire. Turner never gave up and never stopped looking for ways to win. The combat arena was established in orbit around Earth where representatives from every species in the galaxy could observe the fight. The rules were simple and ancient. 2 warriors would fight until one was dead or surrendered. No outside assistance was allowed and no weapons were forbidden as long as both fighters had access to the same equipment. Vorthak entered the arena wearing powered armor that made him look like a mechanical giant. His weapons included energy cannons, molecular cutting tools, and defensive systems that could stop almost any attack. The alien warrior had fought and defeated champions from dozens of species and expected this battle to be no different from all the others. Turner wore human-built armor that combined human engineering with alien technology captured during 2 years of fighting. His weapons were simpler than Vorthak's, but they had been tested in real combat and improved based on actual battlefield experience. Turner carried backup weapons and backup systems for his backup weapons because he had learned that alien technology sometimes failed at critical moments. The battle began with Vorthak attacking immediately, using his superior firepower to try to end the fight quickly. Energy blasts from his weapons lit up the arena as he pursued Turner across the combat zone. The alien warrior was faster and stronger than any human, and his armor could absorb punishment that would destroy human equipment, but Turner did not fight the way Vorthak expected. Instead of trying to match alien firepower with human weapons, Turner used tactics that the alien had never encountered before. He hid behind cover, used misdirection and deception, and struck at unexpected moments from unexpected directions. The alien warrior had been trained to fight other warriors who followed predictable patterns of honorable combat. Vorthak expected his opponents to meet him in direct battle and try to overcome his superior equipment with skill and courage. Turner ignored honor and focused entirely on finding ways to win. When Turner's primary weapons failed, he switched to backup systems without hesitation. When his armor was damaged, he continued fighting with whatever equipment still worked. When Vorthak cornered him in what seemed like a hopeless position, Turner used improvised explosive devices that he had hidden throughout the arena before the battle began. The fight lasted for hours as Turner slowly wore down his opponent through constant harassment and surprise attacks. Vorthak's advanced armor began to malfunction as human-designed electromagnetic pulses disrupted alien electronics. The alien warrior's weapons ran out of power as Turner forced him to waste ammunition shooting at decoys and false targets. The critical moment came when Vorthak's armor systems failed completely and he found himself facing Turner in direct hand-to-hand combat. The alien was still stronger and faster than the human, but Turner had been fighting for his life every day for 2 years, while Vorthak had been accustomed to easy victories against opponents who surrendered quickly. Turner had learned something during the long war that Vorthak had never experienced. He had learned how to keep fighting when everything seemed hopeless, how to find strength when his body wanted to give up, and how to win battles that could not be won through normal means. When his weapons failed, Turner continued fighting with his hands, and when he was wounded, he fought through pain that would have stopped most beings. The final blow came when Turner used a combination of human tactics and alien technology to create a weapon that neither species had ever imagined. He combined a human explosive device with an alien power core to create a blast that penetrated Vorthex's damaged armor and ended the fight. The alien warriors' defeat sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian fleet and across the galaxy. For the first time in their history, the aliens had been beaten in single combat by what they considered a primitive species. The legal and moral implications were enormous because the entire foundation of their empire was based on the idea of alien superiority, but Turner's victory was only the beginning of what happened next. The real change came in the hours and days that followed as the news of human victory spread to every conquered world in the galaxy. Species that had accepted alien rule for decades suddenly remembered what freedom felt like and began to act. On that memory dot, the Cathara were the first to openly rebel, attacking alien installations on their homeworld with weapons they had been secretly building for years. The Mindari followed within hours, using their knowledge of alien systems to disable the technology that kept their world under alien control. Dozens of other species joined the rebellion as they realized that the aliens could be defeated. The Zephyrian Empire tried to maintain control through force, but their military was already stretched thin and demoralized by the defeat of their greatest champion. Alien soldiers who had never questioned their superiority began to doubt whether they could win against species that refused to surrender. Within weeks of Turner's victory, the alien empire began to collapse as rebellion spread faster than they could be suppressed. Alien forces withdrew from world after world as local populations rose up and demanded independence. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was falling apart because one species had refused to kneel. The final collapse came when the three alien species that formed the Zephyrian Alliance began to blame each other for the disaster. The stress of the prolonged war and the shock of defeat broke the cooperation that had held their empire together. Without unity among the ruling species, the empire could not function. President Carter stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. As representatives from hundreds of free worlds gathered to establish a new system of government for the galaxy. The council would be based on cooperation between independent species rather than domination by a single empire. Earth became the headquarters of the Galactic Liberation Alliance, which evolved into a peacekeeping organization dedicated to preventing any single species from conquering others. Human principles of resistance to tyranny and refusal to accept oppression became the foundation for galactic law. The rebuilding process took years as worlds that had been under alien control for decades learned to govern themselves again. Human engineers and scientists worked alongside alien specialists to develop new technologies that combined the best ideas from many different species. Children from dozens of different species played together in the rebuilt cities of Earth while their parents worked on joint projects to explore the galaxy and establish new colonies. The diversity that had once been suppressed by the alien empire became a source of strength for the new galactic civilization. Turner became a symbol of human determination, but he always insisted that the victory belonged to everyone who had refused to give up during the dark years of the war. He reminded people that the battle in the arena had only been possible because millions of humans and aliens had kept fighting when victory seemed impossible. The final memorial to the war was built on Earth where the first alien ships had landed. The monument honored everyone who had died fighting for freedom, but its central message was simple and clear. It contained